has come for me to do my spoiler review for Spider-Man No Way Home. If you haven't seen the film, I'd recommend you leaving now because I am about to spoil. So if you haven't seen already, I have done a non-spoiler review, so kind of just my general thoughts about the film. I don't really, there's not many thoughts I can say without spoiling. I loved the film. I thought it was perfect. There you go. So we're gonna get into spoilers. 3, and I will spoil this. 3, 2, 1, go. So we pick up exactly where we left off. The intro is just the cliffhanger from the last film where we discover that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and I really enjoyed the sequence where we kind of he jumps down to get Zendaya, and then we fly through the streets, and then we head to the apartment where Happy and Aunt May, they are breaking up, which it would have been nice to see a little bit more of their relationship, but it's fine. And then we see this sequence where basically they discover that his identity has been revealed and he's been framed for murder. And then I really like the next sequence because basically it's just showing, I think this was next, basically there's a sequence where they're all getting like interviewed by the FBI, and I thought that was really cool. And like Aunt May, she does a lot in this film. Like, she has a really big role in this film, and I really liked that. She's been one of my favourite characters, but she's not had that much of a role. Like, in Far From Home, she was in it, but she didn't have that much of a role, but I really liked how big of a role she had in this film. I thought that was really good, and obviously that led to her eventual death, which I cried at that so much, but we'll talk about that more later. And basically it was so funny, and then we discover that Peter has got a lawyer, and he's none other than Matt Murdock, who is obviously Daredevil in the Netflix TV show. And obviously if you've seen the latest Hawkeye episode, which I will say it, Kingpin is now in the MCU, which is so cool, the fact that we're getting all these like Netflix TV show characters in the MCU. And it's at the end of his like cameo when he like lifts up the brick, and that was I really liked that. And I feel like this was added in quite late on, but I really liked that we're getting, we're starting to see all these characters, because it was quite obvious that they were from the same New York, because there wasn't any other need to, put them in the multiverse. But I thought it was really cool. But because of this thing that's been happening where some people think that he's innocent, some people think that he's not, Ned, MJ and Peter don't get into college, which is sad. So, as you do, Peter goes up to his old friend Doctor Strange and he asks him for some help, and he basically wants everyone to forget, but he messes up the spell like 6 times when he wants like all his close people to remember. And I really like how this mirrors the end of the film, and I feel like a lot of people have thought this might not have been that rational, but I do think it is. He is just a teenager. Well, he's supposed to be like 17, 18 during this film, so like I think it is understandable, and he just wants his girlfriend and his best friend to be happy, and he just wants them to get into college. And I thought that was really nice. Like, and it was the humour in this film was like groundbreaking. The fact that Ned's like, oh, I can't rip up this letter because like like I need to show this to my parents, but the fact they don't get to MIT, and it is quite sad, but like it carries on the rest of this film. But what then happens is that Peter wants to go find this mixer, who I guess she's someone that you can talk to if you can't get into. I'm from England, so like the US school system very much confuses me. But then we discover that none other than Dr. Octavius from the Sam Raimi movies has appeared and is fighting Peter. And what happens is he thinks that he's in the same New York, like he thinks that he's fighting Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, which I thought was really interesting, and I really like their fight. And then what happens is he zaps Doc Ock to the like prison, and then we see the first glimpses of Green Goblin. I really like how Willem Dafoe played Green Goblin in this film. I thought he was really good. Like I thought he was so good, and the fact that he played a more vulnerable Green Goblin. Obviously there are 2 sides to him. There is the like Osborn side, and then there is the Green Goblin. But I really liked, and Aunt May, she works at a I think it's a charity shelter or homelessness shelter, and she plays honest. It was so good, the scenes. And Peter begins like rounding up all the villains, so we get a fight with Electro and Spider-Man and the Sandman, but he gets them all to go to the prison, and then we meet the Lizard, which I really liked the Lizard in this film. I liked him in The Amazing Spider-Man, but I liked him more in this film. And we're having that, and then Peter decides he and Doctor Strange have a big fight because Doctor Strange wants to send them on home. Peter realises that they're all going to die fighting Spider-Man, so he doesn't want that to happen, so he decides to come up with cures. So he takes them all back to Happy's apartment, which is where they're living now, because obviously it's kind of hard to, you know, when he got thrown for murder, everyone knew where he lived, so they had to find somewhere safer to live. And they start to make cures. He does one to Doc Ock, so he can, like, he turns, you know, good. Because he can control the arms now, which he couldn't do in the other films, and he gives most of them cures, but then not all of them like it. And then there is this huge fight. J. Jonah Jameson is there. He was so good in this film. I loved him. I loved that he was, like, all his, like, interviews and stuff, and all his, like, stuff, they were, like, all filmed from, like, his room. And I know there's so many Easter eggs on his wall with Spider-Man. Like, you can just tell when it comes out on, like, DVD or, like, streaming, I will be, like, zooming in on all of them. And I thought he was great in this film, and there was a huge fight, and Green Goblin kills Aunt May. It was a shock that she died, and I am not gonna lie, I didn't expect her to die. Like, obviously there was a small part that she could die, and then she said the line, "With great power, then comes great responsibility," or something along the lines of that. And it was really powerful, and you can tell this affected Peter massively. I have been a big fan of our MCU Peter Parker, but I know not everyone has, but I feel like this film, it really consolidated him as Peter Parker. It really consolidated him that he is the Peter Parker that we all know and that we all love, and I just felt that it really did consolidate him as that. Finally, I feel like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, he felt different than Spider-Man. He felt more of an Avenger. And there were so many funny moments later in this film when talking about the Avengers. And and obviously there's not really been any big Avengers level threats that they've had to deal with. So it's kind of been quite quiet for the Avengers recently. But then, no one knows where Peter is, like, because his aunt's died and they haven't heard from him. So, and then MJ has a little box that Peter and, like, Doctor Strange fought over. So she's gonna press it, and then Ned has this thing that Doctor Strange has, and he just went like that. And this portal opens, and you think it's Peter Parker. And you think it's MCU Peter Parker. When it comes, you can see it's the suit of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man from The Amazing Spider-Man. And when he takes off that hat, I kid you not, the whole theatre screamed. I've seen this film twice. I saw it on Thursday and I saw it on Friday, and it's just, when he saw that, and then he did it again to find Peter Parker, and then Tobey Maguire walked out, I just felt like, I'm getting chills at me talking about this. I felt something that I've never felt at a cinema before. Not even Endgame. Like, this film does top Endgame for me, it does. There's just something about it that really just topped it for me, and I just thought was absolutely incredible. And the two Spider-Men and then Ned and MJ, they go and find Peter, and he's sitting on top of the high school building, and they all started talking about, like, the fact that they're all Peter Parker, and they all say how they've lost people, and then Andrew Garfield talks about the, like, losing Gwen, which is really important for this film, and then they both all talk about losing either Aunt May or, like, Uncle Ben, and they all start talking about with great power comes great responsibility. But then we get to the science lab where they all start petering, and they all start, like, getting the cures, because they're gonna, like, lure all the villains to this location. I thought this was so good, seeing, like, 3 Peters in the same room, and not even, like, fighting, but just being normal people just felt so cool, and, like, planning, and, like, it was kind of funny when, like, they were all like, my best friend became evil and tried to kill me, and then I killed him, and then Ned was like, ooh, because, like, you know, I don't think they were ever gonna go down the Hobgoblin route with him, because, like, you know, later in this film, you know why. But I kind of think they might go down that with someone else in the future, because a lot of people thought that he might have been the Hobgoblin. I don't think he is. But, you know, there's always a possibility that Harry Osborn in the MCU could be a Hobgoblin. We don't know. But then they kind of lure all of the villains to the Statue of Liberty, which I thought was really, really cool. And they have a big fight, and we see the Spider-Men all working together. And then Andrew Garfield was so funny. He was like, "I love you guys," and that was so funny. And then Tom Holland kind of talks about the Avengers, and like, it's just the fact they were all working together, and they were fighting on the villains. And then Doc Ock came and helped them, and they gave all the villains the cures, and it was just such a great fight. And there was a moment where basically MJ and Ned was trying to close the portal, but he couldn't. And then the whole of the structure falls down, and then MJ falls, and then like Tom Holland Spider-Man goes down, but then he gets hit off by the glider, and I was like not prepared that MJ was gonna die. I was like, "Don't do this to me, don't do this to me, don't do this to me." But then Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man goes down and gets hurt. I think that's a real point for him, because obviously his MJ died, like his Gwen Stacy died. And I just think, wow, the fact that he saved her, and you could just see how happy he was. And like, I just can't wait for the edits to come out of like people like, you know, putting side by side like Gwen Stacy and MJ. I just can't wait for it. It's gonna be incredible. But that was such a moment. And then the big fight in this film was between Green Goblin and then Tom Holland Spider-Man. And you know he wants to kill him, but then with the glider, when Tom Holland accidentally puts it into like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, like you can just see the pain. But yeah, it was just the three of them on screen was so good. I think even if you knew all the spoilers, you knew what was going to happen, you knew practically everything, I still feel like this film would have been completely enjoyable. I think it would have been so enjoyable. I didn't know everything going into this film. I had a feeling that Tobey and Andrew would brighten it. I did watch all the trailers for this film, which I don't always do. I don't always watch all the trailers for films, especially like, I quite often watch the first one, but I don't always watch all of them. But just the fact that I just thought it was so cool. I do kind of wish that they kept the villains a secret, or some of them. Because just imagine that, like, the reveal, or like, not even the villains, but imagine if they were so secret with Tobey and Andrew. Just the fact that the reveal would have been so crazy. Like, I didn't know 100% they were going to be in it. Like, I had a feeling they might be. Like, I knew they probably were in it, but I didn't know 100%. Like, I hadn't seen any clips because it came out the day before in England when I saw it. I saw it the second day because I had plans that I couldn't get out of on the first day. So, I saw it on the Thursday, which was the second day. And it was just so cool. And when they do the spell, which means that MJ and Ned will forget who he is, and everyone who loves him will forget who he is. It's really emotional because, like, they are never going to remember him. And obviously he says that he's going to, like, you know, come back to them, but we'll talk about that final scene in a bit. And they all say that all the Peters say goodbye to each other and how much they've helped each other. And I would love more of them. I feel like they haven't just brought them back for, like, one thing. I feel like the Spider-Men could reunite in the future, maybe. I don't know. I feel like if the Spider-Men could come back in the end, but it would be kept, like, a really secret, I feel like that would be so cool. Maybe they could come back to fight, like, Galactus or something one day, or something huge. Maybe we could do an Amazing Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man, like, or a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4, or do, like, a Logan-style Spider-Man 4. That would be so cool. That would be so cool. But we get to the final scene, and it's just, you know, Peter, after the memories have all been wiped, Peter goes to the cafe where MJ works and tries to, like, is going to try to talk to them, but then he just decides he wants to order a coffee because, you know, life's got to move on, you know. And I don't think they are going to go back to, I think this is probably MJ and Ned's last film. But the final scene where he gets a flat and then he makes his classic Spider-Man costume. I've not been a huge fan of all of the costumes for him in the MCU, but the fact that Peter Parker finally has his, like, you know, his costume, the one that we've all wanted from him, and the fact that he's got it now, I just can't wait for Spider-Man 4. And they have confirmed that it's in development and it's happening. I'm so excited. And now Peter's going to go off to college and he's going to meet Gwen Stacy, hopefully. Which I don't... And then he's going to meet Harry Osborn, the Green Goblin, and he'll meet Venom. And that's definitely happening, Venom. Like, they teased that in the post-credit scenes. Like, they teased that really well in the post-credit scene where, like, Tom Hardy's Venom, like, gets put, and then there's a little bit of the Venom symbiote left over. I've got a feeling they are going to bring Tom Hardy back for that. Like, I don't think they'd waste him for that. But then also, we got our first little look at Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange was so good in this film. He wasn't in it actually that long. I thought he would be in it a lot longer, but it was so good. I think I'm going to end it here because I have, like, 20 minutes of footage, and I don't want the review to be too long that it's, like, you don't want to watch it. So, like, yeah, I'm going to be doing more videos this week. Like, I've got a ranking all of the Spider-Man film coming up, including, like, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the live-action ones, which I'm going to be doing. Once the next episode of Hawkeye comes out, I'll do reviews for 5 and 6, and then I will also go ahead and talk about all of the MCU projects and how I rank them. But, yeah, I don't really have much else to say. If you have any content that you want me to do over Christmas, let me know, because it's Christmas week next week. But, yeah. I'll see you soon. Bye.